Let's see if we can fix this thing. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Last week you saw me finally take out the dirt drag build that I'd been working on. It finally dried up enough and we ran into a couple of problems. First off, you saw the body flying off of it. We'll get to that later, but the main two issues were mechanical. The servo mount cracked and we have some axles popping out. The servo mount I actually have taken care of already. I'll get you in closer here, but I did not notice that the servo will actually fit in its original location, being that I have the ESC mounted kind of high up. So that'll take care of that. We just have to figure out a new front body mount now. What I mainly want to focus on today is the rear and figuring out those axles. So like I said, I wanted to use some telescoping shafts, and there's no telescoping shafts for a B5M, SC5M, nothing like that. But I did a little research, and when looking, Associated also makes a monster truck called the MT10, which also uses diffs, and it also uses telescoping shafts. Now, the main issue with that, as you can see when I open it up here, is the input part of the shaft is basically its own drive cup. And there's a pin that goes through. It's a set screw pin. We've seen this on many other RCs, but we can't really install that onto a diff that has outdrive cups for dog bones or universals. So that led me to start looking to see how I could fit a diff inside this SC5M transmission that would have outdrives that those axles would bolt up to. Well, the MT10 seems to have the same diff, just different outputs. I'm not 100% sure on that. That's what we're going to be seeing today, but I picked up a set of the diff rebuild kit gears and stuff for the MT10, and we're going to pull that transmission out. We'll pull that diff out and try to install this stuff so that we can throw those axles on. These will likely be a little too long as well, but being that they're plastic, they'll be simple to cut down. And then hopefully they fit in the rear carriers, but one problem at a time. Let's get this transmission out and get that diff out. You can see we got the diff out. The first thing to do is gonna be to check to make sure these new gears will fit in here. Already checked the gasket that came with it and it'll fit. It's a direct matchup, which is great. It's leading me to believe that everything else will fit directly as well, but we just gotta check it to be sure. I don't need to keep any of these gears as the kit comes with all of the gears I'll need. It's a complete rebuild kit. So we'll take everything out of here, including the shim. Now we're gonna see if we can get all of this in here, if everything's gonna fit right. This is the new shaft. There is one thing I did notice that is different for sure. The O-ring on this SC5M diff was on the outside of the housing, as the rival MT diff has an O-ring that goes on the inside of the housing. I'm hoping that doesn't cause me any issues. There's a shim that's gonna go over these shafts. We'll install that cross pin, and then the first spider gear. That seems like it'll work. We'll add this O-ring over it. I'm not sure if these O-rings are gonna fit, so I may need to reuse the O-rings. These look a little big. We'll see if reusing these O-rings gives me any trouble. This looks fine. Let's see if I can install the other side. Well, that's pretty nice because it's a pass-through shaft now. I can actually put it all together outside of the diff housing. It's normally pretty tough to get all of that in there on the inside. Now we just got the spiders to put in and hopefully everything fits. It doesn't seem like these spiders are gonna work. The good news is, if I'm looking at this right, I'll probably have to change these output gears as well, but I think I should be able to put this gear back on this shaft. Okay, and we'll just have to reuse the old spiders. The new ones are a little bigger. They have a different gear ratio, I guess, and they're a little bigger in diameter, so they hit the side of the housing here. I'm guessing the rival MT10 has a little bit of a bigger housing. Thankfully, all of these gears are still good though, so just popping that back into place. And this should work fine and just give us some different outdrives instead of those cups. Now all we should have to do is fill it up with some oil and be good to go. I ran into a very minor problem when trying to put the two halves of the diff together. I wasn't able to get the housing to close, and I wasn't sure why. Until I started really looking at those output shafts. It turns out those new output shafts had a little bit of a protrusion, I'll call them, out of the spider gears, the larger gears. They were sticking out of the gear a little bit on the top, and I didn't remember seeing that with the old drive cups, so I put them back together like it was, and sure enough, they were pretty flush with the old drive cups. So that gave us a clearance issue. It looked like the cross pins for the spider gears wasn't able to slide all the way down. It was hitting on the top of that shaft, which didn't allow us to close up the diff housing all the way. So what did we do? No problem. Just went and turned those down on the lathe a little bit. It was literally 40 thousandths. And now we can see that issue has been fixed. I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's no gap there anymore. And these will turn fine. We just need to fill it up with oil now. I won't be going with 1 mil with this, being that this isn't my no prep car. But I still do want it to be a little thick, so I'm gonna put the 500K fluid back in there. We'll fill that up and get that buttoned up to be able to put back in the transmission now. After getting the transmission back in, I tried to do a little YouTube magic and get the axles installed on one side before I turned on the camera, so I knew what I was doing while filming, but the axles won't exactly work. Let me show you why. This is the original dog bone. You can see this is where the bearing sits, and it sticks out the back end of the hub. Just like this, our hex goes on the front here. This is the new telescoping axle. You can see where the bearing would sit on the back side of the hub here. We are significantly shorter. I can stick this axle through the hub, but it doesn't stick out enough on the front for me to be able to put the hex. So a little more research, I found a set of hubs for the MT10. Based on everything else I'm seeing, I think they may fit in these arms. So I picked up a set, we'll be waiting for those to come in. If those fit in the arms, then all we'll have to do is cut these down a bit because I believe they'll be a little too long. But unfortunately, that'll have to wait till that video. The good news is today we were able to get those diff parts installed. That way we'll be able to slide these axles in. It's a bit of a tight fit, but that telescoping axle does fit in there, and we'll just have to put in that set screw pin after, and we'll have telescoping shafts on this build and hopefully not have any more trouble with axles popping out. So until those parts come in, until next time, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like down below if you're enjoying the content around this dirt drag build. I'm curious down below, how many of you knew that so many of Associated's parts could be interchanged like this? Sure, a little modification, but things are working out. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the videos when the rest of the parts come in and we get this thing back together and back out in the field. And as always, thanks again for watching. Peace.